Hey, what's going on today? Bernie Miklasz back with you here on The Bernie Show. Very happy to keep cranking these out for you at sportshubstl.com. And please subscribe. That way you get all the stuff that we're doing on our marvelous new site. Well, once again, welcome to The Bernie Show. It's presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Thank you, DraftKings. Well, the Cardinals are in a bad way right now. I have to tell you that, right? They've lost 4 in a row. They are 1-6 after starting the season with that 3-game sweep of the Twins. Everybody was excited. The haters were having a miserable time because they were predicting the Cardinals were going to lose 130 games or something like that. Just kidding. Actually, the haters could be right, except for the 130 losses. Anyway, it's a weird time in St. Louis because you actually have people rooting against the team they claim to love. Because as I mentioned last week, they don't want to be proven wrong if the team's actually better. I don't know what the team is. I'm probably guilty of overreacting to the positive start, 3-0, and then 4-2. So maybe I don't want to overreact to what we've seen in recent days, which is pretty awful. The latest setback was an 8-4 loss at Pittsburgh on Monday night in the first game of a 3-game set at PC Park. Is that what it's called? I forget. The beautiful ballpark, PNC Park, the beautiful ballpark in Pittsburgh, one of my favorite places. And now the Cardinals tonight, Tuesday, have to face Paul Skeens in the second game of the series. Well, good luck with that. The Cardinals did beat Paul Skeens a couple times last year, but it wasn't because they scored a lot of runs. It was, a couple really weird games where the Cardinals were able to win. They might even beat them 3 times. They were able to win like real low-scoring games. So I might have to do something like that again tonight. Well, good luck to the Cardinals on that because Skeens is great. And he's what a great show he puts on every time he pitches. He is captivating. Sonny Gray will go for the Cardinals tonight. He has got to be better. He's got to be a lot better. And last year, frankly, he was awful on the road. This will be his first road start. So this would be a really good time to reverse that trend. If not, if Gray is not good and Skeens is very good, well, the Cardinals and their fans could be looking at their 5th straight defeat. And that's no fun. Where the heck did all of the fun go? Look at how quickly everything changed. Man, it was Happy Talk City. It was Happy Talk USA around here not too long ago. Last week, as a matter of fact. And now is the momentum completely gone? The Cardinals, as I mentioned, were 3-0 to start the season, but they were 4-2 through 6 games. Offense was cranking. Offense is still cranking. The offense was just like piling up runs. Yeah, now the pitching, in that 4-2 start, the pitching wasn't great, but for the most part, it was looking okay for the most part. And then, boom, the early season party was over. All the party balloons have been popped, right? All that's left now, you look around, and there's just empty cans all over the place, and it's a mess. The Cardinals have had a mess on their hands in recent days. There's been one beatdown after another. This past weekend in Boston was a wreck. The Cardinals got swept, but that's only part of the story. As you know, Cardinals pitchers were assaulted for 36 runs in 3 games by those bully Red Sox. And to make matters worse, the Cardinals lost their dynamic young hitting catcher, Ivan Herrera, to a knee injury that now, in the updated report, looks like he's going to miss at least 4 weeks. Herrera is such a strong presence at the plate. And, yeah, his throwing is a problem, but he was calling good games. He was handling his business, running a game behind the plate. But for now, that's all irrelevant because he's going to be, as I mentioned, going to be sidelined for at least a month with a deep knee bruise. The Cardinals, it could be worse. I mean, they're in pretty good shape with Pedro Pages, who's done a very nice job. He's hitting for power this season, driving in some runs. And what about Yoel Pozo coming in and taking over, getting that roster spot that was left empty when Herrera went onto the IL? Nice home run by him last night. And I tell you what, it's kind of interesting about Pozo, their new number 2 catcher. I had never heard of him. I'm not going to lie, but I went and looked at his minor league, results the last several years. And man, he's put up really big numbers, a lot of slugs. So, things could be worse, but Herrera is a special hitter. Since the start of last season, among major league catchers that have at least 240 plate appearances over that time, Herrera he ranks first in batting average, 318, first in on base percentage, 388, and first in slugging percentage, 481. He leads all major league catchers in those categories. And of course, that would also mean he leads them in OPS at 869. Pages and Pozo will do a solid job, but losing Herrera is a blow because the knee injury was initially diagnosed as something minor. And I think we were all feeling pretty good about that. And additional tests revealed a more serious problem. And let's just hope that the estimated 4-week absence does not turn into something even longer. And the Cardinals have an interesting history with that kind of stuff. Oh, it's okay. It's going to miss a couple days, then it's a couple weeks, and then it's 2 months, and then it's surgery or something. They do this stuff all the time. So good luck to Herrera. We look forward to having him back. During this 4-game slide, there isn't that the Cardinals have lost 4 games. Okay. It's one thing if you're losing games, 4-3, 5-4, the 1-run games could go either way at the end. And they did have one of those, the first game of the doubleheader in Boston on Sunday. The Red Sox had to go to 10 innings to beat the Cardinals after tying the game against Ryan Helsley. But anyway, during the 4-game slide, even with that one close game in there, the Cardinals have been outscored 44-24. Their pitching staff is absolutely getting destroyed. During this 1-6 funk that they're in right now, their pitchers have been pummeled for an average of 9 runs per game. That's right. They've given up 63 runs in their last 7 games. And all you got to do is look at that to understand it really begins and ends right there. The pitching is getting destroyed. And during this 1-6 stretch, I mean, you really don't have to add much to that. I will throw in one more thing, though. The Cardinals, as we sit here today, them going into tonight's game at Pittsburgh, the Cardinals have the worst staff ERA, a 6.18 earned run average, the worst, and this includes starters and relievers, all their pitchers, the worst ERA in the majors right now. It didn't look that bad, looked pretty good actually earlier in the season. And I feel stupid saying that because earlier in the season means last week, right? Whatever. As I always say, we can only discuss the games that have actually been played. But I will look into the future a little bit here coming up in a couple of minutes. So the first thing they got to do is get the pitching back in order, if that's possible. Listen, I don't think this pitching staff is that bad, giving up 9 runs per game, but it'd be good for the health of the team, the mental health as well, if they could start getting a few well-pitched games. That second time through the Cardinals rotation, not pretty at all. First time through, pretty good. But the last 5 games, starting pitcher's ERA is like through the roof. It's astronomical, terrible. Anyway, I didn't think it was possible for their pitching to be this helpless. But again, we're talking about 7 games. Things could change. Things could get more on in terms of solid ground. Not saying they're going to be like a great pitching staff, but I think they can at least be solid. But before the year, though, I want to remind everyone, I said my number one concern coming in was the starting rotation. I thought it was very vulnerable. And the other thing I've said a lot, is that the bullpen was the only reason why the Cardinals won 83 games last year. And without that, they would have been well below 500. But we saw a historically prominent performance from that bullpen in 2024. And I was just a little cautious about it as far as what to expect, because I think it was unrealistic. And I've said this a few times now, so I'm sorry to repeat what I'm saying, but I thought it was really unrealistic to expect this bullpen to be, at that same caliber. I thought it could be a good bullpen, but last year's bullpen was great. It was like great plus, really, really phenomenal. And I never thought that the bullpen this year would get close to that, but they shouldn't be as bad as they've been lately. At 4-6, the Cardinals have reached their first emergency stage of the season. We'll find out a lot about this team over the next 2 nights in Pittsburgh, but it's not just that. It goes beyond that because the schedule is getting really interesting. Because the Cardinals, once they're done in Pittsburgh, well, Pittsburgh's part of the schedule that is a little unsettling if you look at it, because Pittsburgh's got it's not like they're a great team, but they did beat the Cardinals decisively in game 1. So it's not like the Cardinals can take the Pirates for granted. My gosh, they can't take anybody for granted these days when they're pitching like this. But there is a potentially hazardous stretch of the schedule coming up right after this Pittsburgh trip. After leaving Steel City, the Cardinals will have a 6-game homestand against the Phillies and the Astros. Phillies are off to a great start. They have a terrific offense. The Astros are scuffling a little bit. They're just like the Cardinals. In fact, I think they have the same exact record, 4-6. But they're still the Astros, and there's still a lot of talent there. So after that 6-game homestand at Busch Stadium, the Cardinals then embark on a 6-game road trip. They'll go visit the Mets for 3. Then they'll go to Atlanta and play the Braves for 3. And then they come home for 3 against Milwaukee. Those are always important games within the division. And then after just that brief stop at home for 3 games, the Cardinals get back on the aeroplane to play 4 at Cincinnati. Those 4-game series at Cincinnati are usually a handful because the pitchers get beat up on both sides. And, it all depends on if the Cardinals are still hitting, they can probably outslug the Reds. But again, nobody can be too cocky about anything these days. So after they play 4 at Cincinnati, they come back home, the Cardinals do, and they'll have 3 against the Mets. And that's where I'm going to cut it off. There's other games after that, but I want to cut it off. Once they finish that Mets series at Busch Stadium, it'll be the 4th of May. And it's hard for me to say, given the pitching, the horrific pitching here lately, it's hard for me to say or venture a guess as to what the Cardinals' record will look like at the close of business on May the 4th. Maybe they're going to sink between now and then. Maybe they're going to rise above all of the bad stuff, the adversity, and show the kind of resolve they'll need to avoid a total collapse that could just pretty much doom them. And the thing is, I'm not sure what the standard should be for success. Is it a winning season? Is it the playoffs? Whatever. But if they get chewed up and beat up during this next patch of games for really it's about the next 3 weeks, it ain't anybody doing themselves any favors. It's going to be harder and harder and harder to climb out of it. There's nothing soft about the upcoming schedule. The question is, what about the Cardinals? Will they be good enough and tough enough to handle this challenge? Or will this team, which is loaded with so many young hitters and so many question marks at pitchers and the pitching staff, rotation and bullpen, I said it's not going to be a soft schedule, but I hope the Cardinals aren't a soft team during their playing this tough schedule, because they cannot wilt under pressure. They're going to have to play their best ball, and they're going to have to find better pitching, and the pitchers have to do better. They're certainly capable of doing better than what we've seen recently. And what does this mean for Oliver Marmol? I was thinking about that as I was putting my thoughts together for today, and we're going to get into that next. But first, I want to tell you about our friends at DraftKings. Are you ready to win some real money? I think the answer should be yes, right? Here's what you focus on: player stats, and you scope out a great lineup by selecting the winning players for your daily fantasy team, and then you can rack up big cash prizes at the game called DraftKings Pick 6. When it comes to big payouts, DraftKings dominates the competition. Pick 6 is available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. What you do is you make your selections, choose your roster, basically. You track your picks to see if you're headed the right way and whether you're going to have that huge cash prize coming your way. And yeah, it's as simple as that. I signed up, and if I'm a klutz, so if I can sign up, and I found it very, very easy, then I know you can too. Just download the DraftKings app and open an account. then choose the sport, draft your players, and have a lot of fun and good luck. Turn your knowledge of baseball, the NHL, and NBA, and other sports into some cash today. You can get started today. New players get $50 in Pick Six credits instantly with just a $5 entry. So download the DraftKings Pick Six app now and use the code STL Sports. That's important. The code STL Sports for new customers to play $5 and get $50 in Pick Six credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick Six from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick Six not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick Six credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at picksix.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, back to the Cardinals. To put this season on a more positive track, the first thing to do is to stabilize what I believe is an emergency situation. Now, some of you may say, "Well, come on, Bernie, it's early. What are you saying? Why are you declaring this emergency?" I guess it's a figure of speech because it's not a crisis yet, not with 152 games to go. It's a long season, and the Cardinals are still in the process of showing us who they really are. Were they the team that opened the season 4-2, or are they the team that's just been reeling, just been getting slapped around recently? Which team are there? Because we've seen two extremes. So they're in the process of revealing who they really are. The optimists will say, "Well, that we saw what they're capable of when they won their first six." Now, the pessimists will say, "Well, no, of course, the real team was the one that's just gotten slapped around, punched around, kicked around, beaten down. That's the real team." Okay, we're going to find out. That's the beauty of baseball, long season. But I know this, as the Cardinals are in this process of showing us who they are and what they are, they don't want to get too deep in the mud. Now, they did that last year. Remember, before Mother's Day, the Cardinals were 15-24. They actually played pretty safely above 500 the rest of the way. But my point is, you don't want to put yourself in that kind of valley. You don't want to fall into that Grand Canyon of a deficit. You want to hold your own until maybe some better things can happen with your pitching staff. You can't afford to get in there too deep. That's all I'm saying. So the reason I use the word emergency is also because of it's just a figure of speech, but I'm going to put it to you this way. They got to take care of this emergency before it actually does become a crisis. Nip it in the bud, as they say. And I think all eyes will be on Oliver Marmol. And I think, hey, he doesn't play the game, right? He doesn't pitch. He doesn't hit. All that stuff. I'm not making excuses for him because the manager is the manager. And all managers are scrutinized, especially this one, because he's not popular with Cardinals fans. And every failure will be magnified. And if it is deemed on social media that he made a terrible mistake in a game, even if he didn't, because since when did reality or the truth matter, right? It doesn't matter what maybe more logical people, reasonable people think. If there's any perceived slip up by Oliver Marmol, well, it's kind of like, take cover, because people just can't wait to start shredding him. And that's just the nature of having an unpopular manager. I mean, it's not, this isn't like, exclusive to St. Louis. This stuff happens in other places, right? So anyway, if the Cardinals continue to drag and drag and drag, and if they can't turn this thing around, you know what's going to happen. There's going to be the inevitable talk about his job security. Is that fair? No, in my opinion, and it's my opinion only, it's not fair. This team is only 10 games into the season, but I don't make the rules, and I'm not in charge telling fans what they have to think. I have my opinions, which I'm always happy to share, but I do not have the authority to control another person's mind, right? So believe as you wish. I just know that if they continue to lose, it's going to be The idea of fairness is going to be irrelevant if they continue to get kicked around. In terms of what the public's response will be to that, once again, it's irrelevant because anytime the Cardinals stagger, the noise over Oli Marmol will be out there and it will be loud and it will keep going until they start winning again. And even then, it's not like he's going to suddenly become a very popular manager. If the Cardinals continue down this track, in fact, if they continue down any track, there's going to be buzz about Skip Schumacher and Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina. I personally believe that Oli Marmol will be safe in his job for the season, and I believe he should stay in place because I also don't believe John Mozeliak will make a change, not with Chaim Bloom taking over as the president of baseball operations after the season. So the major decisions should be left up to Chaim Bloom. And before you get mad at me when I say I believe he should stay in place, I believe that for pragmatic reasons. I believe that from the standpoint of like you don't want John Mozeliak making any decision about firing or hiring a manager. You want the new guy who's going to have all the authority. Relatively short time for now, that decision needs to be on his desk. I just don't. This is the awkward situation that only the Cardinals could create for themselves, where you have a president of baseball operations and you got another one, a president of baseball operations in waiting. And so if you had to make a major decision, do they work together and come to a kind of a mutual agreement on stuff? I don't know. Only the Cardinals. Remember when this used to be such a smooth running organization? Wow. It never takes success for granted. I think that's the takeaway. But anyway, back to Oli Marmol. A big part of managing is dealing with the heat, noise, the hard times, the slumps, the people mad at you, everyone ripping you. That big dope at Sports Hub STL, doing nasty videos and running his mouth and writing columns. The Cervic, you got to put up with big dopes like me and many others that fit the description. I am interested to see how Marmol will handle this. Like you can remember in 2023, I don't want to rehash this at length because we've talked about it way too much. But you remember how he overreacted early May of 2023, the Wilson Contreras affair, where the pitchers who, no account, gutless individuals wanted to blame him for their own failures. And instead of settling that down and calming it down and kind of, taking charge of that in a way that would have been responsible and admirable, he panicked and gave in to the pitchers. So, that means to me, at least, whenever there is going to be a thing where the manager's on the spot, I'll always be curious to see how Oli Marmol handles it. I do believe, however, he learned a lot from the Contreras mistake. I really believe that he did. And as a young manager, and he still was a young manager then, it was his second season, I do think there is a little bit of a learning curve, not so much with baseball strategy, but just handling people, handling the clubhouse, showing veteran players that you will stand up and you are running the club, not letting pitchers who have no accountability, will not take accountability or accept it, I should say. No, you're not going to run the manager over to get your way. Okay. So I do think Oli in that regard's got some stuff to prove still. Maybe that's unfair because that happened, 2 years ago. Right. But I am interested in how he thinks the players will deal with and will handle this brutal stretch of games. Yeah, I know it's only 10 games into the season, but still 1-6. And the way the 1-6 went down is really a jolt. I mean, it was a heavy, heavy jolt. This was a very confident and upbeat group coming out of spring training. It was a group of players who believed in themselves. They believed in each other. It was a group of players who had the right attitude. I actually thought it was a fun, refreshing attitude, the underdog attitude. They were determined. They were driven. They're going to make the doubters and the skeptics eat their words. It was a bold group. It still might be, still probably is. It was a bold group, unafraid to let everyone know that they thought, hey, we have a good team in here. We don't care what anybody else thinks. We know we're good and we know we can be a big surprise. The vibe was great. And the vibe from spring training carried over into the start of the season. And how is the vibe now? I would imagine it's not all that hot. Are the players still 100% positive? Are they rattled at all by this? It isn't easy to start off so well. Then you're feeling great about yourself, and then boom, you're punched to the ground, and you're seeing stars, and you're like, well, whoa, what happened there? Well, how will the Cardinals respond? They got knocked down. How will they respond? And let me mix some metaphors here. How do they prevent this situation from snowballing? And if it starts to snowball, well, then how do they stop it before it becomes an avalanche? And oh, by the way, I don't think snowballing can lead to an avalanche, but what the hell do I know? Like I said, I was using some metaphors. I didn't execute it very well, but I'm trying. The boy here is trying, okay? The Cardinals had great early season momentum, and it's been halted. It's been halted. We know that. But here's the stuff that I think we should pay more attention to. And of course, we're going to focus 95% on the team that we cover, that I write about, talk about, who you follow through good or bad, or, the team that angers you, frustrates you, disappoints you, or uplifts you, makes you happy, whatever's going on at the time. So I talk about their momentum being halted and a team getting knocked down. Well, it happens to every team. It happens to all 30 teams. Well, maybe not the Dodgers, but it happens to all teams multiple times during a season. My goodness. And I'm sure most of you know this, but Atlanta's considered one of the best teams in baseball. They started off the season, they're 1-8 as I record this today. They're 1-8. The Cardinals are not alone in encountering an early season knockdown. Going into Tuesday, there were better teams, some of them a lot better than the Cardinals, that have losing records, including Atlanta, including Baltimore, Houston, Cleveland, Arizona, Tampa Bay. I don't know whether Seattle's 4-7. Seattle's always one of these perpetually overrated teams, so I just threw them in there anyway. And the Brewers are 5-5, just one game ahead of the Cardinals so far. And the Brewers and the Cardinals are going to have to try to keep pace somehow with the Cubs, who look really good. But I bring up the Brewers as a good example here. So follow along, please. This is a good team for the Cardinals to look at. Not that they're going to sit there and read every story about the Brewers. All you got to do is go with the general outline. I mean, the Milwaukee Brewers, who weren't really being picked to win anything this year, not that that's anything new. But anyway, the Brewers are a good example for the Cardinals in the predicament that they're in. They can look at the Brewers as an example of, hey, got to turn this thing around, and we can. The Crew opened the season at Yankee Stadium, a 3-game series, and they got crushed. What, the Yankees scored 20 runs in one of the games, right? They got swept. They got crushed. Then the Crew went to Kansas City, and they got pounded. They got pounded badly in the first game there. So at that point, let's review. At that point, the Brewers were 0-4, and they had been outscored 47-15. Yeah, I said 47-15. So as bad as it's been for the Cardinals, getting bullied and, kind of thrown off to the side, maybe somebody stomping them. There I go again with metaphors. Anyways, as bad as it's been with the Cardinals getting stomped as of late, the Brewers got stomped a lot more severely than the Cardinals have, right? 47-15. And how did Milwaukee handle that? 0-4, outscored by what? 32 runs? How did they handle it? No problem. The Brewers have won 5 of their last 6, and they're back to 500. See, that's how you handle an early season emergency, or if you just want to call it an early season test, that challenges your ability to, kind of shake off the bad stuff, get right back to it, and turn things around. The Brewers, good demonstration of how that can be done. Now, that's how you deal with getting bulldozed. That's how you deal with a negative start to the season. It's how you deal with getting punched in the mouth with 4 hard shots, as the Brewers did, and in those first 4 games. So that's what I want to see from the Cardinals. I want to see that attitude, that hunger, that energy, that belief in themselves and each other. and an almost like a cockiness when they came into the season. They were just full of themselves. I don't say that as a put down. I actually thought it was kind of fun to see a team that just was like, hey, we're good and we know it. I like it when teams are like that. But what you got to do, though, is you got to follow up on it. You got to prove it, right? And they proved it for about 6 games. And even in those 6 games, the second series of the season, they did lose the series to the Angels, but they were 4-2 after 6 games. Now, after the Twins series, again, they're 1-6 since then. This could be just a faceplant along the way to the 162nd game. It can soon be forgotten, but it's up to Cardinals to do that, and they got to do it on their own. There ain't nobody on the outside who can do it. And it's up to Oliver Marmol and his coaches to do their part to help the players find the way out of this mess. Overreactions won't do it. Putting on a fake tough guy act to impress gullible fans won't do it. Managers don't go into the clubhouse and where the food's all set out, after the games for the players. Back in the old days, when a team was playing poorly, oftentimes a manager would go in there and he would dump over the food table, right? And fans love that. That doesn't happen anymore. So the fake stuff for the TV cameras to try to score cheap points with fans and media, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You got to take care of your business inside the walls of that clubhouse. Players respect managers and coaches who remain composed, unshaken, upbeat. And this doesn't mean that when a team's losing and playing poorly, that the manager should be la-di-da. Oh, everything's beautiful. No, I'm not saying that. There is a middle ground. You don't want to change your entire personality and you go from being, a supportive manager, a manager that's on top of things, who always talking to the players, always having conversations, always asking for opinions, composed, as I mentioned, relatively upbeat, unshaken. Players are looking to a manager for that. They're not looking to a manager to throw cheap tantrums to try to impress people outside of the clubhouse. So, no, it's not supposed to be a picnic. And again, no one in that clubhouse should accept losing. Losing should bother them. Losing should sting. And there has to be accountability. The players have to hold each other accountable, and that's a big part of this. And they do have some emerging leaders, and this is a time for those emerging leaders to step up. But the manager also has to set the overall standard for accountability. And so what I'm trying to say here is the internal leadership must remain strong. It's just not the manager and the coaches. It's also the players. And I've said this a bunch of times. The one thing about Tony La Russa that impressed me, I was impressed by many, many, many things. He's a very strong man, very strong leader, but he wanted the players to police each other in the clubhouse. He didn't want to have to go in there every day and, tell a guy, well, you're 5 minutes late today. You were 15 minutes late. How come you weren't on the field in time for batting practice? No manager does that all the time. He doesn't do that on a daily basis. The best teams with the best internal leadership have players who take care of policing each other. When someone's not pulling their weight, someone's not showing up, someone's not doing what they're supposed to do as far as responsibility to the team. That's when you have a good clubhouse. It isn't the manager being a dictator. You have strong leadership among the players, and they take care of a lot of the business. So the manager can take care of the big things, the real big things, if a team really starts to go south. And, it's just kind of disintegrating. But the day-to-day stuff, man, as far as controlling what's going on in there, things like that, the players have collectively have a large, large voice in that. So here we are. This is a real test for the Cardinals. I think the first real test they've had, because I thought, after that really tough weekend in Boston, they'd show up in Pittsburgh and they immediately get a W, And this is not me taking the Pirates for granted. When you're the Cardinals or you follow the Cardinals, you should take no team for granted. But I just meant I just love the way this team has gone about its business and the way they get after it. And so I thought, okay, what's the best way for them to respond to that lost weekend in Boston? Well, come on out and get a win right away. Yeah, just go out and get a win on that Monday night. You can do that. You can, and they didn't do it. Libator wasn't great early, and it just kind of went south from there. And the offense, by Cardinal standards, was a little more quiet than usual. But you can't expect these fellas to score 7 runs a game, which is pretty much what they've been doing until last night. But even now, they're averaging well over 6 runs per game. You can't expect that every night. That's just not realistic. So other people, the pitchers especially, you're going to have to do a better job. I can't wait to see when I talked about this being a test, and I just said, the pitchers have a lot to say and do to get this thing back on track, because you can't be giving up 9 runs per game, right? And you can't have the worst ERA in all of Major League Baseball. So it sure would help from a baseball standpoint. I will just say this. It sure would help. It would help the cause in a major way if the pitchers stop throwing like those guys who serve up those meatballs right down the middle during MLB's annual home run derby, part of the All-Star festivities. In other words, they got to pitch better. Remember Pete Alonso a couple of years put on a show? The Cardinals pitchers, starting with Sonny Gray Tuesday night, they got to be better than that old dude who was throwing batting practice to Pete Alonso in the home run derby a couple years ago, right? Now you don't want your real pitchers throwing that way. So that's the first item of business. They got to get their act together, because they're surely not this horrible. Anyway, thanks to all of you for watching. Thanks to DraftKings. I don't think I can write a column today, little programming note, because I am having technical issues like you would not believe. My keyboard is shot. It is shot. I cannot write. So how will I handle my adversity? I don't know, but at least I don't have to face Paul Skeens Tuesday night in Pittsburgh. You all have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching The Bernie Show, brought to you by DraftKings.